Okay, so my grandpa uh, is a veteran from the war in Vietnam, and he's going to tell us about it. Okay, take it away.
Yes, my name is Staff Sergeant Lawrence Robinson Jr., and I spent almost 12 years in the military, and 1 year of that time was spent in Vietnam, and from April 1968 to April 1969. And during that time, well, first I was with the 101st Airborne Division, 2nd 501st, and during that time, there was some very treacherous times. There were times when some of us thought that we were not going to make it back to our loved ones, our friends. But due to the professionalism of our unit, some of us did make it back and some of us didn't. But my heart goes out for those that didn't make it back. But I'm very happy to share my experience with you concerning my time in Vietnam. I got to Vietnam, and when I got there, when I got off the plane, it was kind of raining a little bit, and the rain was warm. And that really surprised me why the rain was so warm. Well, when we got to our unit, we had to train for an additional 2 weeks before we go out to battle. And after my 2 weeks of battle, then we aborted the UE-1 helicopters, which took us to our individual units, and then we became familiar with the area after critique from those that were presently there. Well, my first experience in Vietnam was a young man by the name of Touche. He was right across, his bunker was right across from mine. And up to this point, I had never seen anyone killed before. And I didn't actually see him being killed, but he was killed by friendly reasons. Well, he was burned over, I guess, over 99% of his body. And although he was a white guy, but his body looked dark, like maybe like a black guy. That's how badly he was burned. And so they took him. He was still alive. They took him to the evac, and but he later passed. And the doctor said they don't understand how he lived that long. Well, I believe the reason he lived that long is because he had a new baby that he had never seen. His wife was pregnant when he went to Vietnam, and so she delivered during his tour in Vietnam. And his daily talk was to get home to see his young baby. I believe it was a girl. I'm not sure. But anyway, he never made it, and that was very sad to me because, like I said, that was the first time I witnessed anything like that in my whole life. And although they trained us in the military, but I wasn't prepared for that. Then later on, we went to a friend of mine named Elliot. This is my second tragic experience. Elliot and I were good friends, and I was using a pair of sunglasses, which I like, and he was using my. I had a new water canteen which hold 2 quarts rather than 1 quart, and it was flexible. That way you could squeeze the water into your mouth without lifting the canteen to your mouth. And so he was a recon guy, and he wanted to use that, and so I let him use it. He let me use his glasses, sunshades, till he come back, and he never made it back. They had a very successful mission, and to celebrate, the lieutenant gave them permission to swim in a lake. Well, when they found that the lake had bad undercurrents, the orders were that no one would go into the lake, but he went in anyway, and he was sucked under. And they found him 5 days later, and his body was more than twice as big as it was after all the water, I guess, got into his body. I guess I don't know how that really worked, but anyway, that was the second shock that I had. But we had good camaraderie, and we stuck together. We did things. That's when one of us hurt, the other one was hurt. When one of us had to encounter the enemy, all encountered the enemy. I don't care if it was one. All of us pounced on it. And I was with the 81 in Fort Deuce Mortar, so we were not really in the front. Although we was with those that were in front, but we were like behind those that were in front because we was firing like an indirect fire weapon. And the indirect fire weapon is that you have to shoot over your friendly force's head, and you have to hit the enemy position. And there was no most of the time there was no chance, no grounds for a mistake. So I did that, and I didn't lose any men. And I was a platoon sergeant during that time, well, during most of that time. And so it was very trying experience for me. An experience I don't wish to ever live again. I don't wish that anyone would ever have to live that experience again. One of the main things that also not a matter of life or death is when you finally have a chance to have a hot meal. Sometimes it's raining, and you have to eat your hot meal in the rain. And the rain, of course, it doesn't cause your food not to stay hot very long, and so sometimes it gets wet. You're trying to eat your breakfast or whatever meal it is in the rain, and that's no fun. And another thing is that when we are there and we are on guard duty, I don't care how hard it's raining, you cannot put your poncho on. You cannot wear your poncho because when the rain hits your poncho, it makes a noise, and then you don't know to distinguish the noise from your poncho as the noise of the enemy trying to sneak up on you, and that is kind of treacherous. But we had to do it. And another thing that was very memorable was the fact that when we have a big, maybe a big gunfight or fire, maybe I should say fire missions, and maybe some of our men maybe was KIAs, and they have to be in a certain part of some certain position of our location, and we have to assign guards to guard those overnight because the enemy, so the enemy can't come and steal them away. They like to do that for obvious reasons, so they can falsify the attack. So
That was part one.